Hello, everybody. I am Ian from Circuit 42, and we have co-host and guest, Uncle Dunphy himself, Matt Dunford.
Ah, really? That weirdo back again? I can't believe he's even been on it once, let alone, making more appearances. Aren't you guys sick of this guy?
I don't know. I mean, we needed somebody to talk about Beavis and Butthead Comics and Comic Fest
Yeah, so I mean, Comic
and
Fest, talking
Pokemon
about
cards.
and Pokemon. Yeah, it's like, yeah, apparently I'm pretty good at those kind of subjects, and we do have that. What did you say that event was? What was the name of it?
I don't know. I think San Diego Comic Blob, something like that. San Diego
Yeah,
Comic Fest.
San
Yeah.
Diego Comic Fest. I heard that's coming up on October 25th through the 27th, and
What?
yeah, wow, just right around the corner. And geez, what all the people call they're torn between, is it America's best convention or is it America's best small convention? But I don't know, it's unconventional, whichever you like it, because it's done out of a labor of love, and it's coming back for a wonderful weekend show. And I'm hoping to see so many wonderful people there, because it's going to be a great time.
Would you say it's an unconventional convention?
I would say it is an unconventional convention because it's done in the style of classic comic conventions in the 1970s, when you had that relaxed environment where you could just hang out with comic creators in just a small space and just constantly bump into them over and over again. So that kind of environment I really like.
So we actually, I think the first show we did for you was actually promoting Comic Fest.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
why?
and since
Yeah.
then you have become a staple of the Circuit 42.
Yeah, and so it's just why break tradition? Because once again, Comic Fest is back on, and it's a great and intriguing challenge to put on this convention every year, because it always focuses on comic creators, artists, and the people who are creating this medium. And we always like to pay tribute to the icons and stand on the shoulders of giants, a term I use quite often. And there was a challenge when putting together this year's show. They're saying, do we celebrate an icon of science fiction, or do we celebrate an icon of cartooning? So we all kind of just went back and forth, and we said, well, why not both? And so we're going to do a dual theme this year at San Diego Comic Fest. We're going to celebrate 100 years of Twilight Zone creator Rod Serling and 100 years of Harvey Kurtzman, founding father of Mad Magazine.
Oh, that's awesome. I've actually been picking up my local grocery store, a place called HEB in Texas. They tend to order a lot of the Mad Magazine specials that have been coming out. Like I picked up the collection of all their horror parodies. I've been picking up like Archie Digest collections there. And it's so weird because like all the big mainstream normie stores like Target's not going to carry it, Walmart's not going to carry it. But oddly enough, there's one big grocery store chain in Texas just carries all of these, so I always end up stopping and picking them up.
Yeah, and that's really a great thing, because on one hand, like, as we go with the theme, Rod Serling with the Twilight Zone in the late 1950s redefined science fiction storytelling, and Harvey Kurtzman basically redefined how we view satire in America.
Yep. The what was it fun? What it's so weird because I was actually watching. It wasn't the Terror 20,000 Feet. It was the other William Shatner Twilight Zone episode that people don't talk about as much. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to get the name because I literally watched it last night. And it's so weird when you own a series on physical media and you're like, I'm going to be lazy and watch on streaming. Then you're like, why are there commercials? This doesn't make any damn sense. And
Yeah.
then it's like, oh wait, it's because you're cheap. And it's like, that's why. But let's see if I can find the name of the episode because we watched it and like a lot of the best Twilight Zone episodes, you could view it as science fiction, or you could actually view it as someone kind of losing their mind or losing their grip. And that was a Nick of Time,
Hmm.
where they stop in the diner and they find the little psychic fortune teller, the little devil fortune teller. You put the coin in, press the head, and it tells you your fortune. And you watch a man who may actually be end up stuck in a town forever because his so dependence on superstition.
I have to say that it's like, it's just it's so unique, because I find myself always just like diving into, like, episodes of Twilight Zone I've never seen before. I mean, I'm the casual viewer. I'm not like the, oh, I gotta watch the science fiction channel marathon every, New Year's Day. But
I
like
own them,
I
so I'm like, I'm not gonna watch them. Watch the marathon. I'm too lazy for that.
yeah, it's I mean, there's that issue of the Eltingville Club where they all try to like, actually try to do it, and it's just the end. They descend into their own madness while like trying to stay awake and like making their first pot of coffee for the first time and taking whatever weird drugs they could find in the cabinet just to keep themselves awake to watch the Twilight Zone. So yeah, it was a really great really take a good take on Evan Dorkin doing their descent in the madness. But for me, like there was this like when I was telling my parents about the theme. My parents are actually hardcore Twilight Zone fans, and they say, we've seen every single episode except for the one band episode. Never seen the band episode. Which was that? And watched the band
Hmm.
episode, which actually featured a very young George Takei as a young Japanese man actually going over to like help clean out the attic of a guy whose wife had left him, and he's kind of left with nothing, and he finds out that he was a soldier who fought over in Japan and has a great disdain for the Japanese people, and they become locked in the attic together during this time. So, and they are forced to face their own demons in the presence of each other.
I I don't know if maybe that's on the box set or something, but I need to track that down because I've never seen that one.
It was really, really good storytelling, and I
Yeah.
really thought it was a great, phenomenal episode. Um, so there is that sort of thing there, but like I said, in terms of Serling's side of stuff, it's I'm not the biggest Twilight Zone fan in the world, but there's a different science fiction that he gifted to me that is my all-time favorite science fiction series. A lot of people don't know this. Rod Serling also wrote the screenplay for Planet of the Apes.
Yep. And he wrote the original novel as well, right?
Not the original novel, but he adapted it. It was actually a French
Oh,
novel.
I thought he wrote the original book. I was not aware.
No, but Planet of the Apes is that pure Serling Twilight Zone twist ending. It's all there.
Yeah, because it's not because oddly enough, the people, even though it's not a great movie, the Tim Burton movie, its ending is actually far closer to the actual book.
Yeah, and
And
here's the thing: I will actually defend the Tim Burton movie. I do like it because I actually have read the novel. So when I saw it, it's like everyone's like, "Oh, this is stupid." Something like, no, it's like the book this time around. That's what it's like.
yeah, it still feels now it feels kind of sloppy the way they did it
Mhm.
because it doesn't really feel they don't really set it up as well. That's my only issue with it, where the book actually sets it up really well. But I will say I still think the Sterling twist is the stronger of the two,
Yeah,
though it's a little more simplistic.
it's a little more simplistic, but I love all Planet of the Apes, even like the later movies that Serling wasn't involved with that don't have as much budget and whatnot. But like, I'm an apes aficionado. That's my
Yeah.
thing, and I'm happy that we get to celebrate this theme of him at Comic Fest. But of course, we have to dive into Harvey Kurtzman as well. And even though he's a founding father of Mad Magazine, even he is the guy who actually created Alfred E. Newman, although he's more associated with covers by Norman Mingo. It was Harvey Kurtzman who created Alfred E. Newman and his classic look, making fun of I think it was like it was just like some kind of kid on a postcard that he just like saw a picture of and just like did his version of him and just threw him in for Mad, and Mingo just went with it. But the thing about Kurtzman is when you dive deep into his thing, although he's mainly known, like I said, as one of the founding fathers of Mad Magazine, he did the first issue. He was only at Mad for 4 years. That is just
Crazy.
barely scratching the surface of his career. Because I mean, if anything, he had a more lengthy time at Playboy, where he did over 25 years of work,
Yeah.
where he created Annie Fanny, and he was just one of their cartooning gurus over there. And then some of the other stuff that he was one of the pioneers of war stories and like Two Fisted Tales and the stuff at EC Comics, those sort of things. So we have a lot of programs at San Diego Comic Fest that were like, say, for example, like Kurtzman before he went mad, exploring those stories that he did before Mad Magazine. Some of the later stuff where he went on to do um, like the short-lived comic Trump, and then did his time at Playboy. So there's the after, and of course, like the different perspectives of his career and how he continued to evolve as an artist and as a cartoonist, and just as a guy who redefined the way we read comics, the way we create comics, and how we view satire.
exactly. And you look at things, you look at the History of Mad magazine, and even though and the various attempts to bring it back, and I love the fact that DC, even though their app is extremely overpriced, in my opinion, I love the fact that with DC they're including the Mad archives. Like that alone is kind of great because it's like, yeah, you own it, put it out there, make it available. Because they had it on Comixology, but that was such a mess because Comixology was just god awful near the end of that. And now apparently Amazon's trying to bring back another comic book app, and I don't trust you all.
Uh, yeah,
But
well, I have nothing against digital comics, but I just prefer to have my thing in physical
oh,
media.
I
And
do. But if I could pay $69 for Marvel Unlimited for a year, I'm like, that's awesome. If I have something I don't have or something that's worth $1,000, I want to read it. You know.
yeah, which is the best of both worlds. So it's just it's a matter of preference, it's convenience. I don't care how you read them. Just I tell people read them and enjoy them, and that's just how I approach all of this because I am I'm a fanboy at heart, and I want to share my love of all things comics with the other fans out there. And so, but the thing I love most about San Diego Comic Fest is getting to cultivate that experience between the fan and the professional that you don't really get a chance to do quite so often at conventions. But the way we create an intimate environment, and I don't want it to just be the same experience over and over again. I along with doing a new theme each year. I also like to change up the guest list each time around. So we have some wonderful guests that are coming out to San Diego Comic Fest. Um, every year, 200,000 people see his his character that he created, and I feel that they should know a little more about this guy. At every year at San Diego Comic Con, they see his mascot, the toucan, and this year, San Diego Comic Fest proudly presents our guest of honor, Mr. Rick Geary, who is one of those figures who helped redefine the graphic novel with a 20th century treasury of murder. And I mean, I got into Rick Geary's work as a kid in Disney Adventures magazine, but he would also do stuff for like National Lampoon. He would work on Mad, aside from his own graphic novels. He does do traditional American comics. Like he won an Eisner Award for Gumby. His Gumby stuff is fire. And he just continues to keep doing this. I mean, he's like, 80 years old now, and he just continues to be a figure that just redefines the graphic novel over and over with these things. I mean, he's won the National Cartoonist Best Book Award. He's won the Inkpot Award. And I think some of his like prime examples of his murder graphic novels, like the Black Dahlia murders, are just really just mind-blowingly good. And I just think that he is a guy that we really need to pay tribute to because he is an icon of San Diego comics, and he was one of the guys who was instrumental in the Comic Cons of the 1970s. And like I said, he did create the Comic Con toucan mascot, and he's just iconic in that. And alongside, having the regular guest of honor, we also want to pay tribute to people who give back to the community. And so this year, our fan guests of honor are Tommy and Josh Burns. So if you've ever seen the EC Comics Facebook, the EC Comics Fanatics Facebook group, Tommy and Josh run that. They're like the world authority on all things EC Comics. And
That is so cool.
if you pick up some of those Fantagraphics EC Comics, it's usually Tommy and Josh doing the introductions in these volumes because their expertise is just so crucial to these books, and giving the great insight on it because they know so much about them and they know so much about their history. And considering that Kurtzman himself was a figure who got started at EC, in those times, yeah, it really made sense the way I'd heard them talk about Harvey Kurtzman and his thing. So I'm like, yeah, they get to be the fan guests of honor. So
I need
alongside,
to remind me after the show. I need to get you connected with one of my friend Kurt. He is actually the one who's basically instrumental in getting the For Better or For Worse hardcover collections released
wonderful.
to the point where he's actually worked with the creators of For Better or For Worse and to do so.
Well, that's awesome. And let's see some of the other creators that I'm really looking forward to having at the show. She's coming off fresh of being inducted into the Eisner Hall of Fame. Her work on Wonder Woman, on the Sandman comics, and as the creator of Scary Godmother. I
Jill
am so
Thompson.
happy to bring in special guest Jill Thompson to the show. She is doing she is just uh it's that's just it's she's just phenomenal. She just cannot make bad comics. I love everything that she does. She's so talented as a writer, as an artist. Even when it's like stuff that's like soul shattering, like Beasts of Burden, it's like it still resonates with me.
My dad and I, when, the one year we got to go to San Diego Comic Con, I've told you the story where we were just happened to be there in 2007, and we were like, "Oh, we'll be able to get our tickets next year. We don't have to order to get them right now this at the convention." And then
Mhm.
that's when they switched their format to the digital line, which is one of the worst things they've done, in my opinion. Um, and it was the year we actually got to meet Jill Thompson, and me and my dad were talking to her, and we were just chatting about different stuff. She drew a Harley Quinn for me, just started drawing it while we were talking, and it's still probably one of my best convention sketches I've had. I think it was that and the Terry Moore Nightcrawler.
Oh,
And
that does sound
uh,
amazing.
I need to send you a picture. It's basically a femme Nightcrawler by Terry Moore. And when we were talking, she said, "Oh yeah, I told my husband I was thinking about cutting my hair," and my dad and I just both immediately no, and started laughing. Said, "Yeah, that's what my husband said." Because we literally both said, "No, don't."
Yeah, yeah. She's the iconic red hair is just it's her soul. We have to have it, especially because she puts so much of it onto onto characters that we know by her. And then I know as I could fanboy out about Jill Thompson nonstop, but there's other people I want to fanboy out a bit. One of the creators who I've just learned to worship in recent years because like no matter what this guy does and the output of work that he does, he just keeps doing so much work and so much work and so much work, and I just suck up so much of it. It's so good every single time. I am thrilled to be bringing Mark Russell as a special guest to San Diego Comic
He's just so
Fest.
good.
He is so good. I mean, that Flintstones, mind blowing. One of my favorite superhero comic of last year, Superman Space Age. That one is just
When you talk about the
phenomenal.
Prez, because that was like the thing that stuck out to me during the New 52 era, and I'm like, this needs to keep going, and it didn't, and I was so mad. And I'm so happy that that he's gotten the success that he has, because that was one of the best comics that DC published, and then they just canceled it because I
Yeah,
guess we needed more Jeff Johns. And no offense to Jeff Johns, he's a good writer, but I'm like, it seemed like if it wasn't Jeff Johns, nobody knew what to do.
yeah, and the and like other stuff that he is. I mean, he's on X Factor these days. I mean, he won an Eisner Award for Not All Robots, and we're getting to do a 10th anniversary of God is Disappointed in You with our other special guest of honor and his collaborator Shannon Wheeler, who you might know from Too Much Coffee Man. So it's so nice to be able to bring those two back together again. And then also I'm going to have aside from doing a spotlight panel on Mark Russell's solo career, we're also doing a really cool career called the study of super wealth in comics that he's going to be on. So we can talk about Richie Rich, we can talk about Batman, we can talk about Scrooge McDuck, and like all of these figures that are defined by their wealth because if you've read Billionaire Island, it's like he knows how to really work that angle into a story as well. So yeah, the wealth in comics, that's a fun panel to be on.
Yeah. It's like talk to Jim Starlin. He's like, "Hey, it's awesome." That's because you said a contract. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it is awesome. So other guests that I get to have so much fun with. I invited these folks back in the 2017 San Diego Comic Fest, and they said that nobody had really ever invited them to a convention before. And as soon as I got them on board, all of a sudden everybody wanted to do a convention with them because they thought the theme of that year's 25 years of the X-Men cartoon was such a good idea, and they wanted to roll with it. And look what happened: exploded big and revived the cartoon. I'm not saying I had a hand in it, but I may have pointed the finger at. Eric and Julia Leewald of the X-Men cartoon are coming to join us this year. And so is Larry Houston, the producer of the X-Men
Oh, that's
cartoon.
so cool.
And of course, they came back to do X-Men 97, which is just way, way, way too awesome for words.
Yeah,
It
I'm kind of
absolutely,
stressed about season two. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, it completely exceeded all expectations.
Womp womp.
Yeah.
I don't know if
I won't,
that's punishing enough, if
yeah.
you ask me.
Yeah, well, I went there, and so I'm just so happy that we get to do an X-Men '97 panel with them because the X-Men crew is just so wonderful. Alongside that, I love bringing in living legends whenever I have the chance, and so one of the living legends, I just got off the phone with him right before this call, so just to make sure he got his train ticket down, his hotel room reservation, because the man is 90 years old. Not a lot of folks can say that they personally worked with Walt Disney, but this man's big claim to fame is he animated the spaghetti scene for Lady and the Tramp in 1954.
Oh
He
wow.
also went on to work on Beanie and Cecil. He helped co-create he co-created Hong Kong Fooey, and his career in animation is just unlike any other. After 70 years of it, Mr. Willie Ito will be joining us at San Diego Comic Fest.
I gotta tell you, when we were in my family, I would come from a military family, so we traveled a lot, and we were in Panama for 3 years. And weirdly enough, in Panama, when Cartoon Network was still a pay channel, Cartoon Network was part of the standard cable package in Panama. And this is in like this is like 1994. And so we ended up seeing Space Ghost Coast to Coast when it first came on.
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember those days; those were amazing.
and here's the funny thing. Do you remember how back when cable was still a thing, and
Yep,
you had Spanish audio, and you could turn on Spanish audio and have it switch over to Spanish dubbing?
yep,
Well, in Panama, because all the because obviously common language was predominant language is Spanish. Certain channels like Fox and HBO Olay and Cartoon Network, if you put on SAP, put them in English. I always felt bad because my neighbor didn't have that feature on their they didn't have that feature on their TV, so they were always at my friend was always at my house, even though this friend barely talked to me. But it's like you just want to look and watch TV. Um, but this was back in the Hanna-Barbera days before they had cartoon. And so I just remember seeing so much that I had never seen before. Like I remember seeing Wait Till Your Father Gets Home. I remember
yeah.
seeing Hawk on Fooey. And when you said that, that was the thing that got to my craw because I'm like, oh my God, Hawk on Fooey. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was a big Hong Kong foodie back in the day with those, early Cartoon Network days, and wait till your father gets home. And I remember watching all those like
That's
1970s
finally getting a Blu-ray
Hanna
release.
Barbera's. Yeah, and it's like I looked at the cover, I'm like, oh my god, Family Guy ripped this off hard.
Oh, they
I
totally
never,
did.
I never really made the connection
Family
there,
Guy
but
ripped off everything though.
yeah,
So
and it's just what's going to happen with all those folks on there as well. But other people that are going through, we can start shotgunning because oh yeah, well there's another great living legend that I want to acknowledge coming to the show. I mean, he's in his mid 80s now, still actively drawing, still a wonderful guy. Worked personally with Jack Kirby, and then spent 20 years at Disney, of all things, working alongside Willie Ito too there, doing the advertising art for Winnie the Pooh. Mike Royer will be joining us as a special guest coming down for San Diego Comic Fest. So if you know his work with Jack Kirby in the 70s, like on the Demon, Devil Dinosaur, the later stages of the Fourth World, it's just like Royer's inks are the ones that really just made Kirby feel the most like Kirby because he always likes to say at conventions, well, you see, I erased a line once and, kind of put it my own way, and Kirby got mad at me. So after that point, I never changed a single line. I just did Kirby as it was. I made Kirby look more like Kirby. And that's the whole thing there. So that's why you see Royer as the most Kirby-ish one, because he really made the strongest lines of everything. He didn't take away from Kirby, and he just kept enhancing what was there.
I remember because I introduced Jen to the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited when we first started going out, and she got hooked on it, and it's still her favorite DC show of all of them. And because of that show, also because of the Baby Etrigan episode, the Justice Kids, the one where they show them all as kids,
Mm-hmm.
Etrigan basically became her favorite character, so she always gets excited whenever she sees Etrigan the Demon.
Etrigan's great, but I'm sorry. If we're talking Justice League Unlimited, the Question was my favorite
Oh
character.
hell yeah! Oh no, the question the Hunters when we got to those episodes, immediately that became our favorite right there, and it's all
Yes,
because of Cry for Dawn or Cry
yes.
for Blood.
Those are some great ones as well. And then Also just so we're not, talking too much on the guest list because I know we only have so much time on the show. If you're a fan of the comic strip Luann, I've got Greg Evans and his daughter Karen who do the Luann strip, and it's so nice because he based the Luann strip off his daughter back in the mid 1980s, and now she's grown up and she's writing the comic alongside with her dad. That's such a nice thing there. So they'll be
That's so
appearing this
sweet.
Saturday of Comic Fest. Um, you know, icon of underground comics, Mary Fleener will be joining us for the show. So if you like, Billy the Bee, if you like Slutburger, if you like it's Tristan Klitz, it's like, she is going to be joining us for the show as well. Uh, documentary, I don't know, is documentarian a word? Documentary maker.
Documentarian.
Documentarian is a word. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, creator of the documentary Comic Con Begins, and author of See You at San Diego, an oral history of San Diego Comic Con, Matt Klickstein is joining us at the show. So if you ever heard that on Sirius Satellite Radio, it's such a great look at Comic Con history. He will be joining us and talking with several of the founding fathers of San Diego Comic Con for this great intricate panel talking about their history and legacy. And he'll also be doing we'll leave a little sneak preview of his Toxic Crusader or Toxic Avenger panel later that night. So yeah, if you like Toxie, it's going to be coming through.
Seriously, when is the Toxic movie ever going to come out, man?
Yeah, jeez, man, one of these days, it's in the talks.
It's always in
And
the
then
talks.
if you like 1970s comics, which I often do, or if you like even modern comics today, he's one of the most phenomenal, talented inkers around, and he's a great illustrator. He worked on Man Thing, Howard the Duck, so many of the great comics of the 1970s at Marvel, and even like Spider Woman. Steve Lealoa is joining us for the show. That might resonate with your inner GI Joe fan, because oh yeah, I totally
Yeah.
forgot he did the silent issue Snake Eyes.
Finally got to meet Larry Hama a couple of years, like about a year ago. I had
Yeah,
met
huh?
him previously, but I was acting like a spaz. And so when I met him, I was so nervous and I just didn't know what to do. And I didn't know he was going to be there. And I ran, got a comic, and brought it to him. And they literally said, "Did you just buy this comic and sign?" Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because and so I finally got to get some stuff properly signed by him and actually do some research. It was very exciting.
Yeah. And so like other guests that are popping in for the show as well, if you're also a GI Joe fan or a fan of any kind of like 1980s cartoons that were basically just toy advertisements in disguise, Buzz Dixon is joining us. He did
I
the
love Buzz, but he's actually
yeah.
one of our former guests.
Yeah, Buzz is always welcome at San Diego Comic Fest after his work on GI Joe, Transformers, and like Strawberry Shortcake, the Smurfs. He's been around a while for this stuff, and so also coming up with that crew of people who were doing like cartoons in the 1980s. I mean, he's worked on a little bit of everything, including Muppet Babies, Sonic the Hedgehog, the Adventures of Ed Grimley, Camp Candy. Scott Shaw will be joining us at the show, and even Captain Carrot. In fact, Scott even did our shirt this year, which you can check out on our website www.sdcomicfest.org. So it's a hilarious little tribute to the works of Harvey Kurtzman and to the work of Rod Serling. So I think it's a very fun design that everyone's going to love.
We're gonna pause real quick.
Sure. So yeah, I'm so happy to have Scott at San Diego Comic Fest. He's been nothing but a wonderful guest over the years, and he always does our T-shirts that you can find exclusively at the show. And this year he's done one that pays tribute to Harvey Kurtzman with sort of a Mad Magazine look that's hilariously contrasting against the seriousness of the Twilight Zone. And it's available for pre-order right now at our website, www.sdcomicfest.org. And if you pre-order, you can get a little discount as well. And make sure you order early because these shirts do sell out. And so make
Yeah,
sure you secure yours because everyone's like, can I get one? Can I get one? It's like, nope, once they're there, they're gone. You can only get them at San Diego Comic Fest, but you can pre-order them this year. So that's a good look at everything. And you're going to look amazing in it.
there you go. But yeah, I'm really excited for you guys, man. Yeah, we've been trying to feature more and more people from animation on the show as well. We actually had Frank Parra on a while ago,
Oh, awesome.
and he's one of those people. Like, it's so weird that like with all the names in animation that get recognized, that with all the work that he does, and as much of a perfectionist as Frank Parra is, if you watch anything by him, and if you talk to him, It's like this is a person whose name should be out there more. I mean, he literally created Demona.
Yeah, it's he's just so dang good at what he does, and like especially because I am a big Gargoyles fan too. So
Oh, I have a story for you.
mhm.
Speaking of 80s cartoons, so apparently, because he worked on Gem and the Holograms, and he wanted to do he wanted to do a Hex Girl series, and of course, just Warner Discovery in their infinite wisdom chose not to because they didn't think it would be a good enough, big enough audience for it.
Excuse me,
But
maybe
this is the same Warner Discovery who gave Velma 2 seasons and a movie, and 2 seasons and a Halloween special before they finally canceled it. Thank God. But this is also why that Warner Discovery stock is around $14 right now.
what a bargain.
I know. It'll certainly go up as they make better and better decisions.
But yeah, it's like, aside from all that, I'm just, happy to, just people who get to create these things or that get to be celebrated and that we get to enjoy a lot of these wonderful things for the show. I mean, aside from that, like, there's a lot of there's a lot of great programs that we have at San Diego Comic Fest. We every year we like to bring in some actual scientists from local universities to actually talk about certain elements of science and blend it with science fiction. So one of the ones I'm looking forward to is adamantium from myth to material. What science can tell us about the multiverse's strongest metal? So we can have comic writers and 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 scientists talk about the merits of adamantium. So that's it's really good to have those sort of back and forth to go through on it.
Who's going to be
For
at the panel?
that particular panel is going to be conducted by geez, why is her name just barely scraping the surface of me? It's a oh wait, no, it's the next it was that was Dr. Sarah Calori. She's going to be spearheading that panel, and it's going to be really phenomenal. And I always have fun at the
Sounds so
science
cool.
fest. It is really cool, and we will be celebrating doing a panel talking about 100 years of Rod Serling, a panel talking about 100 years of Harvey Kurtzman. We will also be doing a panel called Dark Corners, Rod Serling's Dystopias, talking about his dystopian fiction that you would see in just the Twilight Zone, but also in Night Gallery and, of course, Planet of the Apes. So you get different perspectives of his career for those things. So
I was going to
it's a lot.
ask you if you were going to talk about Night Gallery
Oh
because
yeah, we
even though it was a difficult time for him creatively, it was still a very good show.
mhm. And we are doing different things, even like music in the Twilight Zone, and like there's so much to explore with these creators, and even a panel talking about Rod Serling's Comic Zone, about the comics that you see that were influenced by the Twilight Zone. I
Yeah.
say as myself, Amazing Fantasy 15, Ditko. It's clear to see that his stories in Amazing Fantasy always had that twist ending. Um, Kirby did some good work in his 10-page stories in Amazing Fantasy, but it was always the Ditko ones that really hit. And they always had that twist ending. Twist ending. It is pure Twilight Zone to show what Ditko was doing. Even at the end of Amazing Fantasy 15, that young boy's own irresponsibility got his uncle killed. And we learned that lesson. With great power must also come great responsibility. A lot of people forget the must also come.
Yeah. The it's so funny because you mentioned Twilight Zone, you mentioned the comics, and my first thought, even though Harlan Ellison was the one behind the series, was the Twilight Zone comics that now published that were based off of Harlan Ellison comics. In fact, you had J. Michael Straczynski and you had Bruce Jones, and I remember as a kid the 3D Twilight Zone comic they did as well, and they were great because they weren't adaptations; they were actually original stories from the that just spun out of the Twilight Zone series from the 80s.
Yeah, that's really cool to see because I haven't really read that stuff. Because I mean, I know JMS, he is my favorite writer, and he talks about his own experience with Rod Serling, and I it's just he says he was in the writers club at Southwest College, a community college here in San Diego, and he was putting out some writing samples, and this guy comes up and says, "Excuse me, young man, could I check your writing samples?" And he goes and says, "Like, here you go," and he sits down, and he reads them, and he kind of flips through the pages, and he says, "Hmm, very good. If I were you, I would cut every other adjective, but there's a lot of promise in your work. I'm very impressed by your writing. Now, if you excuse me, I must be off." And then all of a sudden, the head of the English department comes over. It's like, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." It's like, "Where'd he go? Where'd he go?" It's like, what? It's like, "Don't you realize who that was?" No, that was Rod Serling. He's here for a guest lecture today. So I'm like, oh, wow, that's kind of a crazy thing. So,
It's
and then
insane.
and then he ends up being, you know, hired as a script writer for the Twilight Zone revival in the '80s, and then on top of that, the whole thing there is the one thing he did was he said that to reward himself, he decided to go to a pawn shop and buy this book that was signed by Rod Serling, and he says, well, it's got an inscription in there, but it says it was dedicated to like the chef at the place where he would go by, and it says to Joe. He says, well, to Joe, okay, I'll take it.
That's who
Yeah,
created his diner.
yeah, yeah. So I am really happy that we get to do that, and also an X-Men '97 panel, so I get to insert my own personal little fanboy in there. Not to be omitted for things, we're also going to be celebrating 100 years of Jack Davis with a panel because he was one of those creators who really deserved more credit for what he was doing. So some people who got to work with him in their time and are experts on his work definitely get to have this moment to talk about things. Another late night Saturday panel we do with writer Paul Salmon, Tales from Hollywood. He tells about working on some of the biggest blockbusters of the 1980s, like Conan the Barbarian and Blade Runner, among things.
I'm
So
surprised I'm not aware of Paul Salmon.
yeah, you should be. He's done some great work, especially he's like wrote the behind the scenes thing. And remember, it's Sammon, not with an L.
So
But
it's
he
not
wrote
like the fish.
yeah, so he wrote Future Noir about the making of Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a lot that goes into those things, and other stuff back on a Kurtzman note, blast off with Harvey Kurtzman talking about his science fiction stories and mainly some of the stuff that he did for EC. So that is another one that I'm really looking forward to. And of course, we have to shine the spotlight on our guest of honor, Rick Geary, to talk about his 50-year career in comics and just about how he's, such a deserving, wonderful individual figure. And even looking at his new work these days, it's just, you just stare at it because it blurs the line between fine art and comic storytelling. And I'm like, and it's just such a great blend of everything. And I usually have to run around putting out fires at every chance I get at San Diego Comic Fest to make sure the convention runs well. But I was convinced to sit on one panel. I am actually going to be doing the panel with Willie Ito about his graphic novel, Hello Maggie, which talks about his time during World War II, where he was put in an internment camp for Japanese citizens. And so
Yeah.
this is going to be the story. And so actually, I believe it's Willie's publisher actually recognized my name. We had a conversation, I think like 6 years ago, when I was writing World War II history, and I had written a story about a soldier named Frank Fujita who was accidentally sent to the Pacific theater of war instead of the European theater of war. They would let Japanese soldiers fight in the American army, but they never sent them to the Pacific because they didn't want them to be, face, prosecution and friendly fire, stuff like that. There was already a lot of anti-Japanese sentiment that was going on there. But Fujita was sent over to the Pacific theater of war and was captured by the Japanese in his soldier regiment, and the Japanese tried to convert him to their side. And this is a story how he would not budge. And so his publisher, Stacy, remembered that article that I wrote for World War Wings and said, would you do this panel with Willie? You're so knowledgeable of World War II history. I'm like, you know
Send
what?
that to me so I can read it.
Oh, yeah, I'd be honored. It's like, sure.
'Cause that sounds really powerful. I need to read that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll make a note of it afterwards. So it's like, yeah, what was the headline about how Imperial Japan, when they captured a Japanese American soldier. So yeah, that was a great story there. And that was actually my final article for that company, and I am no longer, and I'm happy to move on to bigger things. But I mean, I went out with a bang.
Yeah.
So, yeah, really, I'm really honored that I get to do this panel with Willie talking about his life. And, he's been around for 90 years. He's seen it all. He's been through an internment camp, and he's worked with Walt Disney, and he's created these icons, and he's still with us. So I want people to, take this opportunity to meet Willie, get a sketch from him and just have him in your life for whatever chance you can get, because I think this is just the most wonderful opportunity to get this done.
That's that's crazy. That's so exciting. I wish I could just make it for at least 1 year. Honestly, with the way you describe the show every year, it's just the amount of passion. I'm like, ah,
It is, and it's a labor of love, and I just can't wait to have it happen. So just remember, everyone, if you are coming, tickets are still available. Remember to, book early, book often. It's at sdcomicfest.org, www.sdcomicfest.org. You can get your weekend passes. The event will start Friday evening around 6 p.m. with an evening party that's open exclusively to people who buy the weekend passes. So get some hors d'oeuvres and a slice of cake with some of our special guests and enjoy things there. And hotel rooms are still available at the luxurious Westin Carlsbad, located right next door to Legoland. So join us for this wonderful evening at this great new resort, and it's going to be a wonderful time. We've got 6 programs going every hour, science panels, digital arts workshops. No matter what you are into, we have something for you there.
I'm excited for it. But it's great having you on again. Great to talk about Comic Fest, and we got to talk because we're still setting up a date, but we're going to be bringing you back on for our Halloween special.
Oh,
So
sure.
I'm really excited for that.
And I would be delighted to. Sorry if I have my hands full for the next week and a half. It's just, in most intense week of the year for me with putting together San Diego Comic Fest.
Yeah. That was one of those I'm working hard on, but there's a short that was direct. It was a short episode. It was an obscure HBO series that was directed by Toby Hooper and stars a young Jamie Kennedy and a young Jason Lee. So that's something that we're going to be featuring on there when we do that show.
Oh, awesome.
Yep. And we're actually going to be bringing Christopher Priest on a future show, and we're going to be bringing Rob Guillory on as well.
Oh,
From
awesome.
Shoot.
I
Yeah.
am such a huge fan of Rob. Actually, there was this great little story that I didn't think he would even respond to it, but I talked about, back, I guess, 10 years ago, it was the anniversary of the passing of Robin Williams. And I had talked about this time when me and my friends went up to the Meltdown Comic Show, and, all of a
I
sudden
remember that.
Robin Williams takes the stage. And all of a sudden, it's great. And, he comes up just for a little brief chat about it. And he said, "What's your favorite comic?" "I love Chew." He's like, "My favorite comic, Chew." And I tag Rob in that. And then also Rob is saying, it's like, you know, he tells everyone, "Oh, here's the thing. We were going forward with a Chew cartoon, and they actually had Robin Williams to play Savoy."
He told me about the animated short. I didn't know about Robin Williams. He didn't mention
Robin
that to me.
Williams was actually so passionate about Chew, they were going to give him the opportunity to play Mason Savoy. And that's like, wow, I did not know that. That's kind of intense.
That's crazy. With that, where can we find you? Where can we find Comic Fest? Where can we find all things nerdery and dumfry?
You can find me just, at Facebook at Matt Dunford, MattDonford. You can find me on Instagram at Matt Dunford. I'm back on TikTok these days doing some stuff for San Diego Comic Fest. So just all one word, San Diego Comic Fest. So fun fact every day till we're bigger than Comic Con. Did you know? Did you know? Did you know? Did you know? And I just point to random stuff on my walls, and I just give you a dumb random fact about it. So that's just there. And so I'm back on TikTok again after a little hiatus. So I don't know if I'm going viral again, but you're happy to check out my dumb facts.
Because of you, we all always know about the shocker.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, the shocker.
And of course, where can you find Comic Fest on social media?
You can find San Diego Comic Fest on Facebook at San Diego Comic Fest. You can find it on Instagram at SD Comic Fest. You can find this on TikTok at San Diego Comic Fest, all one word. And you can find the event at www.sdcomicfest.org. and it is there. Tickets are available for the weekend. They're still cheap. They're still accessible. We've got our shirts on pre-order. The room reservations are still there, still discounted for a little while longer. So, get to them while you can. And I hope to see you at San Diego Comic Fest for a wonderful weekend of loving comics, science fiction, and animation.
And of course, you can find Circuit 42 on YouTube, where you can watch us on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Play now. Yeah, Google Play now, where you can listen to us. You can stalk us on Instagram. You can stalk us on Facebook, and of course on TikTok. We're currently doing the 31 Days of Halloween Horror which is my personal passion every year. And you can find that on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And yeah, with that, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you everyone for watching. And go to San Diego Comic Fest.
I'll see you there.
The Uncle Dunphy says so.
Yeah, do it.
Do it. With that, have a great night, everyone.
All right.